guys. Good morning. Cyndi Williams here, the Wanderlust CEO for our weekly live stream. This is Bliss to Abundance. If this is your first time tuning into the show, I'd like to say welcome. My name is Cyndi Williams. I'm the CEO of Careers on Vacation. We teach people how to launch, grow, and supersize their travel businesses. And guys, today we're bringing you so much motivation. I have the coolest guest ever, Mick LaHoda. Mick, welcome. How are you today?
Hi, Cyndi. Glad to be here.
So glad to have you. So I want to tell you guys a little bit about Mick. He is an economic specialist and retired educator of 40 years in adult education in the state of Delaware. He's also affiliated with the University of Delaware Center for Economic Education. And Mick is an avid strategist and studier of the stock market and world traveler. I understand you love to ski and adventure all over.
That's correct.
That's amazing. So Mick, let's start with just talking about what's the history of economics? Let's do that 101 that we promised in the title of today's session, and then we'll talk a little bit about how it impacts the travel industry and anything you'd like to share.
Awesome. Thanks, Cyndi. Thanks for having me as a sort of a guest lecturer, discussion leader, or whatever. Been doing this for 40 some years, and it's fun to teach something that is very relevant to people. So what we're doing here, we're taking, the name of this little discussion is Econ 101 and the travel industry. Now, I used Econ 101 because it is, Cyndi, the most boring subject when you go to college. It's so boring. And I'm going to try to make it come a little bit alive. But we're going to have a couple definitions that profoundly affects the travel industry. So what is an economy? An economy is a study of people who buy and sell goods and services. I'm going to say that again. It's a study of people, no dogs, no animals, no chickens, turkeys. They're in an economy where we don't study them. And it studies the people, how we buy and sell goods and services. Now, the buyer is the person that you're interested in, and that's me. I am a consumer. I am not part of the industry. I want to consume your product, so I want to buy your product.
Yep.
And you are the supplier of that product. The buyers and sellers. The politicians talk about creating jobs. You create jobs. You're a seller. I don't have any money unless I work for you, because that's where I get the money. I have to work for a supplier, somebody that's going to make a good or a service.
Yep.
So now I get that money and I spend it. It's up to me as to where I want to spend it. So I got a question for you. Between the buyers and sellers, who's the most important ingredient?
The buyers, because they keep the sellers in business, right?
Absolutely. God, you would have got an A+ in class.
A+.
The buyer is the most important, and the buyer can want a product. It doesn't count. The buyer's got to pay for it.
Yes.
And that's called demand. Demand rules the world. If you have demand, you're king. And the United States has the most demand of any country, not even close in the world. China's coming along because they got a lot of people. So we have the buyers and the sellers. And the sellers are going to sell a good and or a service. It's the only two things they can sell. I'm going to bring a third ingredient in here for this lecture. Okay? So a good is an object. It's tangible. A service is something that you do for people.
Yep.
Okay? So you think you provide a service. There's a difference between that. And we're going to establish what you provide. It's a little bit better than a service. So here's what we're going to do, everybody. We're going to go back to the founding fathers in Philadelphia in 1780s. I happen to live 15 minutes from Philadelphia, so I know the area very well. So the founding fathers are going to have a meeting, and the meeting is going to be a big convention. It's called the Constitutional Convention, and they're going to meet in Philadelphia at Carpenter's Hall. We call that Independence Hall, but they didn't call it that. So the rock star of the era is George. And George Washington's going to make a trip. There he is.
Yep, we love that guy.
George is going to make that trip from Mount Vernon to Philadelphia. So he's going to have to go through Washington, Boulder. Oh, we can't go through Washington. It doesn't exist. He's going to go through Baltimore. He's going to go through Wilmington, Delaware, and he's going to get to Philadelphia by stagecoach. What do you think, 14, 15, 16 hours? I wonder if he used a travel agent. I don't think so.
I don't think so, but that would be amazing if you go back in time and start it back then.
Right. So we have another gentleman coming, and it's Mr. Alexander Hamilton.
Love it.
Alexander Hamilton is coming from New York City.
Way before the Broadway show.
If you jump on I-95 from New York City to Philadelphia, it'd take you about 2 hours. I imagine Mr. Alexander Hamilton would take something around 12 to 14 hours if he was lucky by stagecoach. Oh, by the way, awesome book. Best history book in the world. Alexander Hamilton. All this stuff, a lot of this ideas that I'm getting are from his thoughts.
Yeah.
The third gentleman coming. Oh, he can't come. He can't come. That's Mr. Thomas Jefferson. Why isn't the third president coming to the meeting? Does he not have a travel agent? He's in France.
France, too far away.
He's in France negotiating. Don't forget, we have a new country. So he's negotiating with the French because they helped us win the Revolutionary War. So he's not coming. I'm going to come back to him again. And the fourth guy, I don't have a $100 bill, but it's Ben Franklin. Now, Ben has an easy job. If you go to Philadelphia, he'll live about 4 blocks from Independence Hall. There's a little memorial there where his house was. So there you have the 4 major, there's other ones, but the 4 that I'll talk about. Ironically, because of the travel industry didn't exist and all you had is carriage, of course, you could walk or you could go by boat.
Yep.
So Jefferson doesn't even know that George Washington, after it's signed, Jefferson did not sign the Constitution. He did not sign. He's not there. Yep. Washington did, Hamilton did, and so did Ben Franklin. But Jefferson did not sign. You can look that up. So he came over after all this was done, and he didn't even know George Washington picked him, Cyndi, as Secretary of State. He didn't even know.
Congrats, you have a new job.
Yeah, hey, Tom, you got a new job. You're going to be my Secretary of State. He probably said, what? I have to think about this. And he did. He said, okay. Alexander Hamilton is going to be named as Secretary of the Treasury. What an awesome choice. The guy is brilliant. Read the book. It's awesome. He is so smart. He's my Einstein in economics. He's brilliant. And Franklin is old. He's not going to do anything except give advice. So anyway, so that's the history of the founding fathers. So let's fast forward, Cyndi. About 1830, there's going to be a new invention coming along that's going to help us. It's called a train. So the railroads effectively are documented as having passengers from about 1830. So now we can get around a little faster than the old carriage, right? And we're not going to spend time on a railroad, but we're going to fast forward past Abraham Lincoln. We're going to go up to maybe Tom Edison and Tesla and all these inventions and get to some guy that's going to be immensely important to the travel industry. And his name is Henry Ford.
I'm from Michigan, so I know all about Ford.
That's around the beginning of the 1904, 1903 era.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Henry Ford used a travel agent, but I'm sure they did because they traveled by train and now by car. But the monster is coming up. Orville and Wilbur Wright.
That's right.
Yeah, that's going to really do it for the travel. But that, I don't know if that started. Here's where it started, I think, Cyndi. It started when I was a little kid. Yeah, I'm in my 70s. And it's Eisenhower is my president. And I'm sitting watching this TV, black and white. My dad just bought it. Oh my goodness, I love this guy. He's so amicable. He has a mustache and he's talking to kids. And I loved him. Walt Disney.
One of my personal favorites, yes.
And he's going to start the TV first, and then he's going to go, ooh, where are we at? Can you read that?
Yeah, we got it. Yep.
That's Disneyland. Cyndi, when was Disneyland started?
Oh my gosh, it was in the 60s. I don't know the exact year, but it was in the
Close.
50s?
55.
55. Oh my gosh.
And they came up with the idea, Cyndi, that, hey, this is really popular because we're providing a service. Ooh, there's a little bit more to this one. We're providing a service. Maybe we ought to do one in Florida. He dies in 66.
Yeah.
And when did Florida, the Disney World open?
73?
Within 2 years, 71.
71. Oh, yes.
I would submit
it was a little bit before I was born.
Yeah, but you're good. I would submit this is the beginning of the travel agents.
Yes.
This is the beginning of your career. It's going to go on and on and on through. We didn't count Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and all the communications and all that other stuff yet. But this is really the beginning. Now people have a place to go. Now here's the hook that I tried to get to. Now we have to redefine my definition. It's a study, economics study of people buying and selling goods and services. Mm-hmm. Services don't mean that much to a travel agent because you're above that. A service is something like, oh, my car's broke. I need to get it fixed.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to college, but I need to be educated. And yeah, that's a service. My plumbing needs to, et cetera. So what you do something that people love.
Yes.
It's not a service. They love it. So here's my it's not my invention. Economists talk about this. Are you ready?
Yeah.
You give an experience.
Yes. I say that all the time to our because I say, what do we really sell? Like, yes, we're booking the trip, we're coordinating, but we are we deliver the dreams, like at the end of the day, that people remember and that they love. Like, that's what we really do for families.
Experience. And they worked all that time and they paid the plumber, they pay for the college tuition, but they want to have some time that they have fun with. There is a tremendous demand for this.
Yeah.
Tremendous demand. So basically we come up to the present day, 2020, and the second part of my lecture or discussion will be, wow, we have a 1,000-pound dragon. That dragon enters the economy. Oh my God, we have no experience basically in modern society besides 1918 with the Spanish flu. Mm-hmm. So the dragon enters the economy. And so the second part is, what are we doing about this? What are we doing about this? Because demand is there, but now nobody wants to travel. The travel industry is destroyed. Airlines plummet. Retail sales go down the drain. The stock market gets killed. Cruise lines don't even do anything. They just sit there. Restaurants are empty. There's some parts of the economy that are rocking and rolling. Things with the internet, the cloud.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they're rocking and rolling.
Health services.
Yep.
And Mick, what does history show us when we go through these major events like this? Like, how should travel agents be feeling about the economy and the rebound? Because now people are just starting to travel again. They're getting more comfortable. What does history show us about how, everything is secular, right? Like, what are the cycles that we can anticipate, and what should we be anticipating?
That's an excellent question. So let me see if I can give you a little idea about that, because I do have somewhat of an answer. So I need to proceed into part two. What are we doing about this monster called COVID-19, the dragon, or whatever we want to call it? It's only a virus, but it's so tiny and it's so devastating to the economy and to people. People are dying. So everybody's afraid to do this, afraid to do that, and get into crowds. Okay. So we have 3 doctors that are dealing with this, Cyndi. 3. I'm going to talk about each one. Okay. Did you know there were 3? There were quite a bit more than 3, but there's 3 groups of doctors.
Yes.
All right. The first group of doctors is called the Federal Reserve. There's a Federal Reserve on top. Right on top of that bill, it says, this note is legal tender and it's a Federal Reserve note. So the Federal Reserve is one of the doctors, and they have PhDs. And there are 12 banks to the Federal Reserve, ladies and gentlemen. It starts in Boston, that's labeled A, goes to New York, that's B, and Philadelphia, C. So the fact that Alexander Hamilton has a C, I don't know if you can, right up here by my finger, this came from Philadelphia. The K on, it's upside down, but the K in Thomas Jefferson is the Central Reserve, Federal Reserve in Kansas City. Oh, and here's a good point. Kansas City has basically the central part of America, and one of the states in the Federal Reserve is Wyoming. So every year in August, the Federal Reserve has a meeting in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. They did that last month. That's a great place to send some people who want to travel. Jackson Hole is awesome because there's only one road in to Jackson Lodge, and you have Grand Teton Mountains, and 45 minutes you have Yellowstone. I guess that's why they go there, because it's a national park and nobody else can get in. They close everything off when the Federal Reserve meets there, and they make the policy. And that's what I want to briefly talk about.
Yeah.
So the Federal Reserve's policy is monetary. They have two main goals: unemployment and inflation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So what are they doing? What is their medicines? This ain't gonna
I
work.
love that you make economics fun.
This ain't gonna work. That's not gonna work. So what they do, they control interest rates.
Mm.
And right now they control the Fed funds rate.
Mm-hmm.
So ladies and gentlemen of Econ 101, the Fed funds rate is the rate that one bank will pay another bank for overnight loans.
Yeah.
Obviously, the cheaper the interest rate is, the more you want to borrow.
Yeah.
You see the connection to the economy? The more you want to borrow, it means the more that this stuff floats around because you have money.
Moving around and keeping things going.
Yeah,
Yep.
and it's cheap. So
Yep.
what do you think the Fed funds rate is right now?
Oh, I have no idea.
I know. Nobody else. That's why I'm speaking. So all you people are going to know the Fed's fund rate. Give me a guess.
Oh my, I have no idea. Mick, I wouldn't even, not my area of expertise.
Well, you know, credit cards don't keep a balance. They're around 17, 18.
Yeah.
That's a rip off. Mortgage rates have come down because of that, maybe
I've
2
heard
to
that.
3%. Yeah. The Fed funds rate is effectively zero.
Really? Wow.
Zero.
Wow.
Their target is 0 to 1/4, which is, we call it 25 basis points.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be kidding me. You're borrowing money for nothing?
Yeah.
In MTV, it would be money for nothing, chicks for free. No, just money for nothing.
Yeah, that's right.
It's
Yeah.
got to be a bank
That's right.
to get this.
Mm-hmm.
So what they're going to do, they want the banks to borrow more money so they can loan out more money.
Banks then in turn are making loans for people to do
and give
houses,
money.
cars,
That's right.
small businesses, all that stuff. Yeah.
And the key economic principle there is the propensity to save and propensity to spend. It's a formula. It's a moving target. Right now in the class, I would quote the propensity to spend is about 95 cents out of $1. That's what Americans spend. Therefore, if you have a propensity to spend 95 cents, that means you can only save 5 cents because that's all you can do with money.
Yep.
You either spend it or save it.
Yep.
Now, who wants to save money in a bank that pays 0? See, so the investment is not that important right now.
Right.
So, but it is because investment creates more jobs because of the capital. Well, anyway, that's one. So they're flooding the market with low interest rates.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't want to borrow, it has no effect on you.
Right.
So let's try something else. Let's try, this is kind of a tough one. Let's try their second
medicine.
Here's their second medicine.
Love it.
Their second medicine for the economy. They're trying to cure the economy, you see. Just like a human takes these Pepto-Bismol or whatever. So they're going to do something called, this is fairly new, quantitative easing. Quantitative easing. You have no clue what that is.
No idea, but it sounds very fascinating.
It is, and it's crazy. This is hard to understand. Quantitative easing means the Federal Reserve is going to buy government bonds. That's what it is. So the Federal Reserve buys government bonds. There's trillions and trillions of dollars of these bonds. That's the national debt, 26 trillion.
Yeah.
It's an insane number. So they're going to buy U.S. bonds. Cyndi, it's like you're going to buy your mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
How you buy your mortgage? Well, you need money.
Yeah.
Then you pay it off. The Federal Reserve doesn't have money. They just buy government bonds.
Yeah.
You might ask, where's the money coming from? Where does it come from? They create it. Trillions of dollars, because if they buy, there's somebody on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody sold. And if they sold, they got all this cash.
Yeah.
Trillions of dollars of cash. You see what the Fed's doing? It's flooding the economy with money through low interest rates and quantitative easing.
Quantitative easing, new term. That's very fascinating.
Yeah. But what happens is the debt, the country just goes through the roof.
Yeah.
That's another problem we have to worry about later. But there's no inflation. That's the other issue. There's no inflation in the economy. So what the Federal Reserve is doing is trying to get money into people's hands. That's good for you and me. Because now I have money and I can now buy your travel services and get my experience.
Yep.
But what about people who don't have a job? See, that's the problem. Not everybody is going to be benefiting from this. Hopefully they will.
Yeah.
So that's a lot to swallow there. But that's some of the medicine that the Federal Reserve is trying to do. And they're doing it because all these things are like lagging indicators. Unemployment is a lagging indicator. The stock market crashed in March. It went from 29,500 on the Dow Jones Industrial Average.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say the number again, 29,500. I'm close. In 5 weeks, it went down to 18,500. 5 weeks, that's a 38% drop. It's the fastest drop in history, and that's a leading indicator. Retail sales are also a leading indicator of the economy.
Mm-hmm.
What did the Dow Jones do during the Great Depression? It was around in 1929.
Yeah.
It's going to go down about 80%.
Yeah.
But it's going to take us 10 years. This was 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Halfway in 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Enormously quick. Okay?
Yeah.
And now the lagging indicators, unemployment and low interest rates, they come after the fact. Now they come out humongous numbers. 14, 15% unemployment was 1 quarter. So unemployment comes out every month.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we have 14% unemployment in the April quarter, what was the unemployment during the Great Depression? Which is the worst economic of anybody alive.
Yeah.
Any idea?
No.
I ask that question in the classroom, I get 30, 40, 50, 60. Yeah. And I shake my head. It was 22.
Yeah.
So that's big. It's never been that high. So that still means, Cyndi, that out of 22 people unemployed, there's 78 who are working.
Right.
So if we have 14 now, as 14 was in April, we still have that many people working. The opposite of correlation between 14 and the number is 86% are working.
Mm-hmm.
Now the unemployment has dropped because of all this money coming into the system.
Yeah. Well, and I think, you know, if you compare the Great Depression era to today, obviously we've learned some lessons. Like there's some of these measures you're talking about that are, because I remember my grandmother talking about the Great Depression and her being so sad because her crayons melted on the porch and like her family had to save for those crayons. And I was like, wow, that was like serious. And then I look at like what we're going through today and some of the, you know, help and some of the things, it really is allowing us to, you know, kind of ease through this process. But also to your point, and what we're finding, because we're still actively selling, we're still booking, you got to find those people, right? That 77, 78 people, right? That are
they're going to be more there.
Yeah.
I didn't get to the other 2 doctors yet.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, the second doctor, I don't know if they have PhDs like the Federal Reserve. The second doctor will represent Congress. That's 100 senators and 435 congressmen or representatives. They have the power to tax and spend. Yeah. They're not going to tax us. That's taking away money.
Right.
They can lower taxes. They haven't done that yet, but they're going to spend. So I think you got some of the spending. Did you not? Didn't you get $1,200 like most people? So they gave every citizen $1,200. Mm-hmm. That's about $3 trillion that they gave out in spending. And yet inflation didn't even budge. It's amazing.
Yep.
Not that it has anything to do with the travel industry, but out of the $3 trillion, Cyndi, they gave $1 billion to deceased people. How could you give $1 billion to people who were already deceased? Well, the IRS, the Treasury, sent the money out. That's their job.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
By order by Congress, the Treasury sends it out. But the Treasury is not connected to the IRS, which is Internal Revenue, but they're not connected to Social Security. And Social Security knows who dies. You would think those two would get together.
To each other, people.
We're
just like, oh, we'll just waste $1 billion.
We'll just waste $1 billion. But they're supposed to give it back. But yeah, right. We'll see what happens on that. So that's a second doctor who's still injecting money into the economy, and we may get more. So what I'm saying is there's a lot of money out there. And again, you can only buy or save. And there's a lot of buying out there.
Yeah.
And the third doctor, who's the final part of my little presentation, is I think the most important, because that's the MDs, medical doctors.
Of course.
I saw on Bloomberg the other day that Pfizer has something ready to go next month. They think. I saw this morning on Bloomberg that China is ready. I don't believe anything from China, but China is ready in November. So if the medical community and there's hundreds of thousands of people researching this disease, if they can get together and find something, we are back to rock and rolling. But I'm not too optimistic that that's going to be too soon. You're going to have to wait sometime next year, I think.
Yeah.
So there we have three people.
The beauty of on the medical side that's happening is there's so many people working together across the world, because we're all in this together at the end of the day. But to your point, no one really knows, is it next month? Is it next year on that whole piece? And I really feel like people are making a decision. Do I live my life? Do I sit it out? And in our seats, we have to be respectful wherever people are, it's kind of one of those things where it's a personal decision. But to your point, from an economy perspective, it's you got to find that 78, and then you got to find the ones who are willing to travel and want to travel.
That's right. And there's a lot of people ready to go, but they're still afraid to go anyplace. They're afraid to get on an airline. Cruise ships are zero. They want to get on a cruise ship. They're afraid because of the group dynamics. That'll change. Gosh, I hope soon. And that's the big bugaboo that's holding us up. But you have an industry that's extremely dynamic, and you have an industry, only you give the experience besides the service. Nobody wants to wait in line in airlines or travel. They want to go to you. I think you got a gorgeous model here, and everybody listening to me, the business is coming. I just don't. The medical guys are going to control this one. When they get a solution, you're going to rock and roll.
Yeah. Well, and the silver lining for us, I feel like, in the industry has been, the people who booked through big online travel agencies and these big shops, they just shut their phones off a few days into this thing. And a few weeks in, they didn't know how to handle the customer service. They didn't know what to do. Like, oh my gosh, are there the travel bans and all that? So what, the articles from Forbes, USA Today, Travel Weekly, they're all like, you need to have an experienced travel agent on speed dial. You need to have that person in your pocket, because travel's so fluid right now. We do have people traveling. We have people in Disney. We have people in Mexico. We have people, that have been waiting on their wedding that are pulling the trigger and doing some of those things. So it's, although the model's changed a little bit, the ones who are willing to travel, they're not willing to do it without like that professional in their back pocket, because they don't want to wait 7 hours on the phone just to be told, call me back when your trip is out.
I don't.
No, I mean, there's so many stories out in the major media, but there were brides who had weddings and they couldn't cancel or get refunds on their wedding that was happening next week, kind of thing. I mean, it was sheer chaos. But 6 months ago, a lot of people would say, oh, are travel agents still a thing? And now we're in just that mainstream vernacular in terms of like, what's going on, and have one in your back pocket and work with the professionals. So we're really using this time to train and to learn and to help. Like through Careers on Vacation, of course, we're training people to get ready for this rebound that we're anticipating and starting to see, which is good. But
you don't have to create the demand. It's there waiting.
Yeah,
it's not just us. It's the whole world wants to do this. Italy wants us back so bad. I went to Iceland. They want us, but they won't let us come in. Yeah, it's there. The demand is there, but the money can't be spent yet.
Right. So, and I know, although I am not an economist in any way, shape, or form, which is why you're here today, I am an expert in the travel industry. And what happens whenever you go through a major event like this, from our perspective, is the minute those things get lifted, then we have specials, bonuses, incentives. Travel agents have those back channels to know everything that's going on. All of you will be able to get, like, even right now in Mexico, people are being able to get butler suites and villas at the rate that sometimes it's to stay at like a deluxe room, because there are so many cool things out there. So we're really working with our clients to go, what's on your bucket list in the next few years, and putting people on a watch list so we can, as soon as things release and open up, we can go, okay, depending on when you're comfortable, we can do it in 2021, we can do it here, we can do it there. The other beautiful thing that has happened in our industry is just, especially yesterday with all the announcements about the airlines, I don't know if you follow that, but they're waiving change fees, right? You're not going to have to pay change fees. So they're doing all of these things so people feel more confident about booking that next trip. So from our perspective, we're booking the crap out of 2021 right now because they have flexible cancellation policies. Like, it's a small deposit, you have your trip on hold. And so I think that's been really encouraging for at least our customer base, that they're like, holy crap. Yes, last year when you quoted this out, it was $3,000 or $4,000 higher. I can get the same thing plus these perks, plus if things are still a little crazy, I can cancel if I need to and not lose anything. Yeah. So I think even though we had to go through some tough stuff this year, I really feel like the industry has changed. After kind of 9/11 was the same thing, right? So we went through some tough stuff, and then there were some things that came out that we were better for it.
That's what's going to happen. It's going to be better.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. So
I'm bullish. I am bullish on your industry.
yes, I know. Well,
it sucks right now, but I'm bullish on it.
There's been so many studies done, right? And a lot of the studies will say people will give up going out to eat before they give up their annual vacations.
Absolutely.
That is the only time you get to come together with your family and connect. And here's the other light that I want to just share with all travel agents out there. This is what you guys need to think about. One, you got a bunch of people who haven't used their vacation time because they're working from home, right? So I got vacation time, buco vacation time, because no one's using it because they're home anyway. And then you have people who didn't get to take all of their vacations this year, so they have extra budget for next year's vacation. And the third thing is they're sitting at home going crazy. Like, I have 3 kids just outside the door that are all in school, and we're used to traveling 7-8 times a year. We're like, we already have 2 trips scheduled for in the immediate future. So we're heading out pretty soon. That's an okay choice for our family. But it's one of those things where people have cabin fever. They are so ready to start dreaming again, start booking again, and at least have that next thing on the book. So I'll just leave our travel agent community with that. Like, never stop marketing, never stop communicating with your audiences. And this has been so helpful to kind of learn, Mick, and just understand the history of it and what's going on and what we should be prepared for. And I always ask our guests, what was your favorite vacation you've ever taken?
Absolutely. Boy, it's a tough one because I've been to a lot of places. Unlike your guest a few weeks ago, 100 countries, this gentleman was in.
Yeah, Conrad, yep.
Yeah, well, I've really traveled a lot in the United States. I think Hawaii was one of the more awesome ones, in California. God bless California. Fires and, oh my Lord. So I take that off the list right now. But I put Utah, the state of Utah, so many beautiful national parks in Utah.
Oh, yeah.
I liked Iceland, and I liked the United Kingdom and Ireland.
Yeah, so beautiful.
So they're my 3 or 4 top picks.
I love it. I love it. No, and it's one of those things where, like, travel is like the jewels, the highlights of your life, right?
Absolutely.
Like, how do you, like in my case too, I'm like, how do I pick just one? People ask me that all the time too. And I'm like, it's like picking a favorite child. Like, that's the point of this great big beautiful world, is like, you get to go and connect and be immersive in these different environments. And, I grew up in the Midwest, and I didn't travel at all. My first trip ever wasn't until I was like my first airplane trip wasn't until I was 16. It was just to Disney World. So when I became an agent, they started flying me all over the world. I was like, what? Like, my eyes just opened. It's been the most phenomenal, like, life. And I think that's the other thing that people are learning from having to be at home, and Americans especially don't like to be told they can't go places or do things. So I think people are asking, like, one of my clients said this yesterday. Clients are learning they have to take that bucket list trip out of the bucket and do it. Because what if you didn't get the chance? Like, people are asking now, like, oh my gosh, I didn't get to Bali. I didn't get to Tahiti. I didn't get to wherever they want to go, right? Mm-hmm. So they're moving those bigger trips to the top, which I love. So
look what you just said. Let's analyze what you just said. What's your favorite trip? And I said Hawaii, I said Iceland, I said the United Kingdom, Ireland. Now, what if I ask you, what was your favorite time you took your car to get serviced?
Exactly.
That's a service. You say, well, I don't know. You see why it's not a service, it's an experience.
Yes.
You sell an experience that people remember. I don't care about my car being fixed 6 years ago. I remember Hawaii 10 years ago.
Heck yeah.
It's a big
Absolutely.
difference.
Yes. And that's the beauty of building relationships with your clients and knowing their families. And that's what they get when they work through travel agents, right? And by the way, if you guys are watching this and you're a consumer and not in the travel industry, I'll link my list below of our preferred travel agencies, so you guys can grab one off that list. They need your support. So book with a travel agent. It doesn't cost you any more to work through travel agencies 9 times out of 10, unless they're doing special services that you can't get anywhere else. But definitely check out that list. But it's the beauty of having a relationship with someone. It's kind of like having that great doctor or that great lady that does your hair. It's good ones are hard to find. So definitely check out that list, guys. And if you want to get in touch with Mick, you can reach him at MLaHoda@yahoo.com.
Thanks, Cyndi. And don't forget, I'm the consumer, and I represent that side. I'm not in the business. And you got an awesome business. Go get them.
Mick, thank you for joining us today. You somehow made economics fun, which is hard to do. So I love it. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, we'll see you next week. Bye, guys. Hey guys, Cyndi Williams here. If you like that last video, make sure you check out my other content to help you grow and scale your very own travel business. And also, I invite you to travel around the world with me and find out what I'm doing in my portable, profitable, award-winning travel business. Check out the videos.